Hello and welcome to KJ's Crash Course. I am KJ here with exercise 4, working with Outlook. There is another version for Gmail as well. If you are using Office 365 for your email as well, all of the activities are going to be the same. Outside of the first initial scope card that we use. I will make sure to highlight that when we get through the exercise. But essentially, if we summarize this, we are going to be interacting with an email entity this time. Not every automation is going to be just using one application. You will have multiple applications that are going to serve one purpose. So we're going to show you how you can interact with an email. So we're going to do the RPA challenge again, but instead of you having the Excel downloaded already, we are actually going to read or grab it from our email inbox, right? Or any folder that you want. It'll be the same steps. Download that file and save it somewhere. You can save it anywhere you want. I'm going to use the downloads just for sake of demonstration. And then use that Excel just like we did before to complete the whole challenge. But then what we're going to do at the end, using some of those UI capabilities, is we're actually going to scrape this result at the end and send an email back with that result. So not only are we going to read from email, but then we're also going to be able to send an email with an output as well. And you guessed it, we're going to need to use a variable for that. And there's going to be another activity to store that value in that variable. So just to reiterate what we're going to do here, we are going to grab the challenge file from an email, complete the RPA challenge, and then scrape that final value. Some key terms we're going to look at with this, and I'll cover them as obviously we go through, are using the desktop Outlook app. I do have a supplemental, as I alluded to before, a supplemental Gmail version of this as well in the description. For each email, so just like we went through for each row in an Excel sheet, or if you did the bonus for each row in a data table, for each email, saving email attachments, and then as I had alluded to scrape that value, a get text activity, and then ultimately a send email out or send Outlook mail message that you'll see in this exercise. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. Because we've already built the RPA challenge before, why don't we do that same thing we did from lesson 1 to lesson 2? Or if you did the bonus on parameters, why don't we go ahead and copy the RPA challenge exercise, get us another copy. Let's rename that to RPA challenge exercise 4, working with email, that way. And then let's step into that folder, go to the project, rename it exercise 4, working with email. You can feel free to edit the description if you want. I'm going to say use email to grab the file this time and send an email with the result. Feel free to do as much or as little of that as you want, but once we have this renamed and we have our file here, go ahead and open up the new exercise, as we're just going to edit that RPA challenge file from before and add in the activities necessary to do this. Okay. And awesome, we are back into our exercise. So we are going to actually leave pretty much everything here as is, right? What we're going to do though for feasibility, I'm sure you've noticed this, the chevron, maybe you clicked on it, you can collapse everything on the topmost box that you have. So I could even potentially collapse the sequence, right? But that doesn't make any sense. So I'm going to collapse this just for feasibility, as we're going to add it later, because I wanted to highlight obviously the new activities we're adding to this. So we know this will complete the RPA challenge. So let's actually start doing the email part. So as I had alluded to, this is for Outlook, right? If we search email, here's all of the capabilities we have from an email perspective right out of the box. We're going to use the Gmail and Outlook integrations here, where you can say use Outlook 365. You'll connect to your Exchange. Gmail will connect to your Gmail. I'm going to use the the use desktop Outlook app activity for this. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is obviously tell it to interact with Outlook. So just like we've done with the use browser, we're going to pull in this use desktop Outlook app here. Okay, And there should be an option if you have this, it's like, oh, add an account and authenticate. There are some instructions that I will provide here in the description below if you want to follow it, or just search use desktop Outlook app and it'll show you the authentication. There's a quick authentication. It'll take 2 seconds. You put in your password and it'll authenticate. Okay. But to that point, there you go. I'm going to choose, I've already authenticated, so I'm going to choose my kyle.fenton@uipath.com. And then just like the Excel, see the reference as Outlook, we're going to use that throughout the other activities when we're going to, for each email, do something. Okay, so once you have your desktop Outlook app configured, next thing we need to do is loop through all of our email messages. So how we do that is you see right here in our email search, there is a for each email activity. There, we could also save a specific email as a message if we wanted to, but we're just going to do the for each because I think it's good to learn how to iterate through from a loop perspective. Okay, so pull in a for each email inside of this do block. And then, oh look, current mail, right? For each current row, current mail. It's the same thing. If you did the bonus there, okay, or if you saw it, remember it from the Excel activities as well. For each current mail in emails from, just like Excel, we click Outlook, and then it'll pull all of those folders in. I have a ton of folders, so this usually takes it a little bit to load everything that's there. You'll see it here in a minute. There we go. We are just going into my inbox folder specifically. We don't need to, we can do retrieve the attachments along with the email, but we're just going to use a separate activity for that as well, as the save email attachments in the next one. Limit emails to the first, no limit. And then what you can do is you can check unread. What I want to do is filter specifically. Oh, and I probably should have done this. Go ahead and download, sorry, I should have said this before. Go ahead to the RPA Challenge website and download that Excel if you haven't already, or if you deleted it or whatever the case may be. And then from there, send yourself an email with the title RPA Challenge Excel and attach this here. We're going to use this as the filter. So once you've done that, send an email with the subject RPA Challenge Excel, or whatever you want. As long as you remember it, you can put it in the filter and attach that. Then what we're going to do is filter this specifically, where from or whatever. I'm going to say we're going to filter where the subject equals, and then we're going to give it that value. So we're looking for the email right here to filter all those out where it says RPA Challenge Excel. Because if we think about this in a real life scenario, and then be sure to put quotes, if we think about this in like an actual real capacity, chances are if you're iterating through email, you're going to be either looking for it for someone from a specific person, or it has a subject or something in the body of the email, whatever the case may be. We're actually going to tackle something in the body of the email in the next final exercise. From a development perspective, we have a couple videos after that. But this will be super, super helpful to kind of limit those records down instead of having to loop through everyone. Although if you have an if statement, it'll work too, which you will learn in the next exercise as well. Okay, so subject equals RPA Challenge Excel. So we're looking for all emails where it looks like that. And then just like we'd expect, we would do this, we'd save as, and then we'd save it somewhere. We're going to do the same thing. Okay, so what we're going to do here is the next one would be for each email in our inbox. What do we want? Well, we want to save the email attachment specifically. What email? Current mail, because we're looking for the list of emails where the subject contains RPA Challenge Excel, right? Filter by name, don't need to worry about that. Don't need to exclude inline attachments, right? And then save to folder. So we can have an override existing there. So this is super important that if you are saving the same file over and over again, that way you don't run into issues like, oh, this file already exists, would you like to save? That will hang up your automation, all right? And then because we've already downloaded it, I'm just going to use this path. This will help me grab the folder path that it's saving to a lot easier, okay? So downloads I want to save it into the downloads folder, overwrite existing, right? And it's going to save the challenge.slxx email right there. So I know it's going to save in downloads. So let me actually, before we do the next step, let's do that. And then that's going to save in my downloads. So that is the step that we've taken up to this point. If you want to run a quick check, because we are adding another cool thing you can do is you can disable activities as well. So if you wanted to just run the email and make sure that it downloads accordingly, you can hit disable activity here and it'll comment it out. I use the chevron, and then I'm just going to delete all the files in my download real quick and just make sure that this runs. So just a quick run file on that to make sure it's running properly. And then right there, we go to my downloads folder and refresh. Oh, something didn't work here. Let's figure out. Maybe I need to have that retrieve attachments checked. Maybe I said the wrong thing in the first place. Let's retry and run this again. And if we go to downloads, we can see right there, challenge was downloaded. Okay, cool. So I just needed to have the retrieve attachments there. So my bad about that. Awesome. So we have the attachments that we are looking for. It clearly pulled my, I think, signature as well. Nice little UiPath symbol. Hey, cool. Awesome. Cool. Anyway, so pulled that. We're good. So we know that's working. So I'm going to actually go ahead and collapse this. For now, we're going to use it a little bit later. And then what we're going to do is we were just going to enable its Control E or right click enable activity. And then let's go here. Okay. So now what we do is we see right there the Excel file. We need to use, and you can see it's actually referencing challenge 1. If we remember for exercise 3, I had 2 of them downloaded, but I know in the desktop app it actually saved as challenge. So I need that to be the specific path of the Excel file we're using, right? Because if you go to, I don't know, use SharePoint, use Google Drive, whatever, and you try to go for a specific file with a specific path, if the path isn't right, the file doesn't exist. So this is the same exact concept. So we're gonna hit this button here and change it to be where this was. Yours may be the same, which is totally fine. If you saved that to somewhere else, you would need to change it. So if I was actually going to use maybe, let me just say an expense or something like that, I would need to make sure that this challenge file existed in this folder, right, from some way, shape, or form. All right. So I'm going to change that to downloads challenge, and there we go. We can see that is this. We know it's not going to be created, so I'm actually going to uncheck that. I can leave everything else as the same. All right. So I can do this here, but what I actually want to do is when we're done with Excel, I'm going to close this down. We do need to get that value from the end and send it back in an email. So how we do that is just go ahead, click start, and then submit through all of these. It's okay. You don't need to have it completed. You could theoretically, oh, excuse me, got caught. You could theoretically run your automation and then get to the result, and that'd be great. But I'm just going to scrape it just from here to show you that it is possible and that it'll still work regardless of whether you do it, finish it, complete or not. Right, so do that, get to here, we have the success rate that we want to pull. The activity we're going to use to do that is called get text. So I'm going to put this, remember, it's got to still be inside that do block, right? Use browser, Chrome, RPA challenge. And then we want to get text and we want to grab a value from the screen. So we're going to click on this right here. It's going to, oh, the target was good. I'm going to anchor onto the congratulations just as a fail-safe. It should work, but I'm just going to do that just as a best practice. Click confirm, and then you'll see save to, oh wait, enter a VB expression. What are we going to do? We're going to create a variable, and then we're going to use that variable in the final activity of the exercise. So go ahead, Control K, or if you don't want to do that, right click, create variable. I'm going to call it string results. Feel free to name it whatever you want. It'll be in the do scope. I'm going to just keep change it to main sequence. I do that pretty much for everything unless I know I'm breaking automations down to like multiple sequences, which we do in exercise 5, but you get the idea. Okay. So that's everything we need to do from inside this perspective. Now, what I want to do is instead of needing to pull in another use desktop Outlook app, what I actually think we're going to do is we're going to pull this whole thing inside of that. And I'll explain why in a minute. So let's actually close down this for each email, cut this, and then let's actually paste it inside the do block. The reason I'm doing that is we're just nesting the browser stuff inside of this. If we were just grabbing the attachment, we could just leave it as is, and then that'd be the result, and then we'd be writing it somewhere, for example. However, since we know we need to send an email as well, I'm consolidating it into one scope. We could have just as easily, done that and then just pulled in another use desktop app to do it. But I'm saying, in the sequence, inside of Outlook for each email, save the attachments, and then go to Chrome. And then when you're done with the results, go send an email. So that's why I'm putting it in the sequence here. You can do it any way that you want, right? I'm just saying from a cleanliness, kind of a feasibility perspective, I'm doing it that way. So I've minimized for each email, I've minimized use browser Chrome. Then what is the final activity? Let's just go back to our emails and see what we got. So if we go to our integrations, Gmail and Outlook, we see, there's a send email activity. So let's pull that in as the bottom. And then what account, right, are we using? We're going to use Outlook because remember, we have that reference there. Who am I sending it to? Myself. I've actually aliased kj@uipath.com. I think that's actually pretty awesome. This subject will be RPA challenge results. It can be whatever you like. You can have the body be in HTML if you want. I would just say text because it is really simple, because instead of hard coding something here, we are going to use the variable we created before, which was string results. And if you wanted to send it as an attachment, you can. If you want to actually send the email, right, uncheck this save as draft. If you just want to leave it in your drafts, you can just check that there. I'm going to send it and we'll just have it pop open. But that is learning how to use Outlook instead of using everything else. So let's give this a whirl here and make sure that this is running accordingly. Let me delete this so then that way we can move on, and let's give this a run. And as we finalize this out, we can see email, we had the results, looks like 70 out of 70 fields in 70,340 milliseconds, which was 70 seconds. So we should see this thing in our, we'll do a side-by-side comparison here. We'll go to this, everything gets sent to my sandbox. Let me move it to my inbox so we can see it. And we see success rate there. Your success rate was 100%, 70 out of 70 fields in 70,340, 70,340, 100%, 70 out of 70. So that is using email inside of your automations as well, not only just receiving from, but also sending to. Key terms here, key activities that we learned was use the desktop Outlook app for each email, saving the email attachments, everything was there, but then we did add a get text towards the end of our automation, which is really awesome. Saved it as a variable, and then we were able to use the send email activity to send everything out accordingly with the results. I am KJ. I hope to see you on exercise 5, where we bring all this together. I introduced a little bit more of some coding concept, nothing too difficult, I promise you, and actually build out more of a robust automation that works with email, works with scraping a whole table set, and then completing work items with a table set as well, using what we call an if statement. We're going to go back to that Acme website and actually do an example on that Acme website, which if you decide to continue your journey, you will see deeper in the foundations leading into your advanced coursework. Once again, this is KJ signing off. Congratulations on completing exercise 4. You're almost there. If you used anything outside of Outlook, once again, be sure to check the description. There is a working with Gmail option as well. You would just supplement the Gmail activity for the Use Desktop app, or Office 365 for the same thing. Everything else will stay the same. I am signing off. See you at exercise 5. Cheers, guys.